Hey, let's go to our first question on Reddit. The title of the question is how to tell a worship leader she can't sing. He says, so I am all about everyone leading in the gifts and living out that Ephesians 4 life of raising up the body to do works of service. I really believe we should all be functioning in our gifts for our own joy, for Jesus, and for the church. But
okay, Paul, in the world of church, we have to give that preamble before we say, but this person really stinks at singing. Like we all assume, bro, if you're a pastor, we all assume everything you said in the preamble. Continue, go ahead.
What do you do when somebody in the body thinks they have a gift that they just don't have? This applies to all gifts, but the lady has sung on worship team before because no one has the heart to tell her she just can't sing. It's pretty bad. I also don't want visitors to come in and be put off by the worship experience because of poor leading. She loves Jesus, has a heart for worship. That's not in question. It's her singing that's the problem. I know it's not all about perfection, but we also have to have a good worship experience. Am I being messed up here? Would you just keep her singing anyways? If not, how do you even begin to bring this conversation up to her? This sounds like a fast way to hurt her feelings and get her family upset. Her family has been a ministry family at the church for decades, so I really don't want to offend her, but I don't think she should have to suffer through this any longer. We should suffer. Okay, we should suffer this any longer. We have no worship pastor. It's just me. There Apparently. Are 2 rotating teams, and that's about it. Our worship overall isn't star production. We're all right, but what this lady leads, it crashes the experience. All right, guys, I think even the broader picture of like how do you tell someone whose gifting doesn't match where they're serving, but like this is a big one. In fact, Tim, I know I wish we had Sarah here because she's had to do this, and this is probably one of the parts of her job she likes the least. Obviously, I don't think any worship leader loves telling people.
Hey, if you're a worship leader listening to this and you like to do this, you're not a good pastor.
By far the worst part.
You're a musician, not a pastor.
Yeah,
which is okay. Like some people should be musicians and not pastors.
Yeah,
but you're not a pastor if you're like Simon Cowell.
One thing that I will say, this has worked out well at Lakeview to make it less personal when it comes to hey, your voice just kind of sucks. Is Sarah, our worship leader, will once a quarter have basically a team-wide skill development process where everybody shows up for, we call it like a jam session. And if you were interested in joining the team, you have to show up to one of these first, where your skills can be assessed at one of our quote-unquote jam sessions. And it's not like a personal audition. You're actually with the team. And then after that, she can then go back and say, hey, you're actually a better fit for this ministry, or it's not going to work out well for us here.
You should be on the parking team.
I can't wait.
I'm just like, it's so hard, dude. It's so hard.
I can't wait for
the person.
I can't wait for the clips of this episode where Tim is zoomed in on with glasses. It's going to be great.
I can't see.
It's so bright in here.
It's so bright right now. It's the sun, Jeff.
All right, here's what I would say about this. He said it sounds like a fast way to hurt her feelings and get her family upset. Yes and yes. I'm sorry, but it is. Because let's be honest about it. Musicians, especially singers, we are touchy. We get our feelings hurt a little bit easy about this because we are artists and we are sensitive and maybe oversensitive. And the reality is I'm assuming this guy's a lead pastor. As a lead pastor, I don't know how long you've been at this church, but you are apparently reaping some rotten fruit from the previous ministry to you because whoever was the pastor before you did not do a good job of telling this person the truth. And the fact is, like you have said, he not only did a disservice to the church, and I have some thoughts about worship experience and guests, but he really did a disservice to this person and their family because you allowed someone who is very obviously bad at this job to continue to do it to their embarrassment, dude. Like, it's secondhand embarrassment is a real thing. And, you know, we wouldn't let somebody who is just really bad at teaching, like, oversee Sunday school and teach every week, or at least I hope we wouldn't. You know, practically speaking, you're going to have a very difficult conversation. Very practically, one thing I would do is start recording your services. Doesn't need to be anything special. You literally could just put a phone in the room and let it record a video of you guys leading and her singing, and then sit down and have an honest conversation. And will it be hard? Yes. Will she probably have tears? Absolutely. Will that family maybe leave your church? It's possible, but that's part of your role. It is to tell people the truth and to hopefully, see if there's another place where she can serve. I had this experience, a number of times, but the one in particular I can remember, I think I've told the story before in here, but at the end, the lady actually told me, like, thank you for telling me the truth, because other worship teams have just shut the mic off and pretended, and that hurt my feelings worse. And, right after the meeting I had with her, we didn't talk for about a week. She was pretty upset. She left, but then she called me and, said, thank you for telling me the truth. And basically my message to her was, look, we don't have anyone here who's a vocal coach. Your vocal ability is not up to the place where it needs to be in order to not be a distraction in the corporate gathering, from the place of leadership. So I would recommend you get some vocal lessons and see if that's something that can be grown. All of us have a ceiling for our talent. Like he mentioned Ephesians 4, God has gifted us in different ways, and all of us have a ceiling. When it comes to aesthetics in the church, my kind of belief is that as a pastor, it's not my role to necessarily find the most talented people and get them to serve in those specific roles. If they're in my church, great. My job is to help people find out where the ceiling is for their talent and get as close to it as they possibly can. Meaning, if you're a guitar player, you should get as good as you possibly could get. No one's going to be John Mayer except John Mayer, maybe the greatest guitar player of our generation, right? But you can be better than you are. And that takes some dedication. It takes some practice. Vocals is the same thing. I will say, for some reason, vocals is a little more personal because it's like you're making the sounds with your body. You're not playing an instrument, like it's literally you. So it's very easy for it to become like a identity thing. I could just see where you guys are going with that. Go ahead, Andrew. I know you want to talk next. Make some sounds with your body. Go for it.
I was answering Tim's question.
Golly. You can't say nothing
Andrew,
on here.
Can you make sounds with your body? That's all I was asking.
That was such a good monologue, and then it ends like that.
I love that, though.
Jeff, I think what you said about other instruments is exactly right. Like, you wouldn't allow an out-of-tune guitar to be front and, and maybe that's the analogy that you have to make to this person.
Yeah.
I think recording and playing back.
I wouldn't allow a guitarist who couldn't hear that their guitar was out of tune. That's actually closer to this. It's not even that the guitar's out of tune. It's that the person playing it is like the only one who doesn't realize it's out of tune.
And Jeff, you're right. It's something that's just different about vocalists. If someone is whatever instrument it is, if you're the only instrument that you are contributing is your voice, I don't sing or play an instrument, so I'm not one to talk, but I've never had a keyboard player take a critique poorly. I've never had a bass player, get all huffy, but a singer, there's something different about it. So I honestly think you record it and then you just kind of not anonymously, but you say to the whole group, hey, we want to work on getting some things better around here. Could all of you listen to this week and, give me the feedback. Tell me what you're hearing, so that she has to hear it for herself and then has to talk about it.
But I would just add, if the culture of this church is that they haven't been telling her the truth for a long time, I'm not sure that's going to do anything but just exacerbate what's already going on. If I'm in this situation, I literally would record it and just have that one-on-one with her and say, hey, let's listen to this together. I know you can hear what I hear, and if not, I just need to tell you the truth that, like, you're not up to par. Now, the whole conversation about it being off-putting for guests, I have a little bit of a hitch there in my giddy up, because, like, that's really not the purpose of, I said hitch my giddy up. That's not the purpose of corporate worship, although it's part of what is happening, and I do think I keep it in mind. I wouldn't make that the main point. That's like 10th down the list of importance for me in this conversation with this person. First
this summer I was visiting a church, and there was an awful music moment in the service, and I sent all of you guys the Facebook Live link to the service and told you what minute to scrub to. But I was a visitor in that church, and within 10 minutes of that horrible moment, there were 4 other churches where people were listening to that.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're not going to make that decision just based solely on what a visitor might hear, but what a visitor hears gets out to your community real quick.
You know, I think my biggest thing because I've led worship teams before, is don't forget you're her pastor. I think Jeff said, you're not a band leader, right? I mean, you are, but if you're a pastor. So when you're having that conversation pastorally, I'm going to enter that like I would. I mean, similarly to church discipline, in the sense of like, I'm prayed up first. And also there is an outcome that hopefully she can land on, whether it's, hey, we're going to enter this season of, like, for example, if I had an issue, say it's not church discipline, but I need to talk to a congregation, I'm their pastor, it's a teacher, right? And they're not sharp enough. I'm going to sit down with that teacher and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to mentor you over the next 6 weeks, or I'm going to provide a place for you to learn. I think that it's healthy if you could do that in your worship setting, say, hey, listen, want to have a conversation, be prayed up, be very humble. And it's even okay to let them know. I mean, I think sometimes pastors, we got to walk in there and acting like we know the outcome. It's okay to let them know, this is a little hard for me to have this conversation as well. Because if you do that, that's letting them know that, like, you do mean the best for them. And then once you say the thing, also, you can let them respond, but then also but here's the way forward. I've got a place that we can go and get you some lessons. But in the meantime, since everyone already knows your face because you're on stage, how great would it be if you came out in the lobby with the greeting team? Because the people come in would be like, I know that face. And now there's a familiar person. Like, you can have this, you can provide some different options in the meantime while she's being trained. I just think this whole thing needs to be handled less from the pragmatic and more from the pastorally side.
I also think you have to face the reality that she is going to feel betrayed. I think that's a reality here. She is going to feel like, why has no one ever told me this?
Yeah, maybe not by you. Maybe
right.
She feels supported by you, yeah.
But if you're the senior pastor, you kind of get looped in, like you represent the church, sort of. And so for you to come say it, it's going to be a feeling, it's probably a combination of feeling like you're way out of touch. Why you're the only one who's ever told me this. And then it's going to shift to, oh my gosh, how long have people been not telling me this? And that's going to be that sense of betrayal. So yes, this is a very fast, her feelings are going to be hurt by you telling her this. But like, I mean, I know I'm the guy that always says this, but as a pastor, kind of suck it up, buttercup. Like, you're going to have this conversation. That's just the reality of part of our job when it comes to this.
In your giddy up, suck it up, buttercup.
Jeff's feeling great today.
I feel like Jeff is like a Toy Story Woody doll, the way that he's using these euphemisms.
It sounds with your body.
He started, and he has all these like pithy statements, and I'm all for it.
I do.
Agree.
Hey,
I think
how you doing?
I hear that we have to acknowledge in every ministry that not every desire to serve equals a gifting in that area. That's okay. Like, there's a discipleship issue here that we could lean into, where we still affirm this person's desire to serve. Like, that's a good, healthy, godly desire. We just have to find the right fit for that person. That's why I think in looping them in with this, you bring either another ministry lead in to say, hey, would this be a good fit for you? Or you recommend another spot for them instead of just turning them away. Like, why can't they serve in another area? And we had this very difficult conversation with a Lakeview family not that long ago. And Jeff, everything you said was true. They were hurt. We weren't sure if they were going to leave. It took a few weeks. They calmed down and they actually started serving in another area. It was a beautiful thing. It worked out well. They're still very faithful to the body at Lakeview, and it's a sweet fit with where they're at, but they had to go through a really painful process. But I don't know, like you said, Jeff, I don't know if anyone had ever told them before the truth. And I do think the truth is the right route, but it's going to be painful for sure.
And the thing is, there's a
their
way to
family's
tell
involved.
There's a way to tell them the truth.
Generations enabling this.
Yeah, and there's a way to tell the truth without being like, "Hey, you idiot, you can't sing." Like, that's not what we're talking about. It's much more gentle than that.
It's pastoral.
I do think that one principle in general is that with these forward-facing leadership positions, be slow to place these people there. And like, I mean, this is why I mean, the unfortunate thing is, and this guy, like, he inherited this, and like a good church, even like a small worship team, a small church, should have some sort of auditioning process.
And if you have to slim down to one guy with an acoustic or just a keyboard for a long time, that's fine. I'm telling you.
Yes.
Younger generations, especially if you're thinking about reaching younger people, they really don't care about having a big production.
They
it is
do
totally
not.
fine.